And today I am joined by singer, producer, composer, and data squad leader Shinigami, aka Gianni, who just recently dropped his latest album, Pure Data, which will be a primary focus for today's discussion. But before we get into that, how have you been, man?
Shit. I've been honestly, it's been pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a really
Okay.
it's been dealing with a lot of life changes. A lot of unexpected things kind of came my way. Um and I mean right now, I'm better, I would
Better.
say. Chilling, you know what I mean? I'm taking it the best that I can. But yeah, honestly, it's been pretty fucking rough, as this journey typically goes, you know.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, let's. I think the people want to know. I was saving this for later, but I think it applies to the topic now. The people want to know how the car has been, updates on the car. Is it currently working? Will it continue to work? How's that going?
Um it's working right now. It's completely fine. Um I was having sh- some crazy issues happen like literally as soon as I got it, basically, like, or it wasn't as soon as I got it. It was probably like a month or two in, basically. So my car is like super low, like, so, which, you know, I grew up like around cars. Like my dad had a Civic, my dad had an Integra, my cousin had a fucking WRX, my other cousins had like BMWs. Like I was like always around it when I was a kid. Fast and Furious was like my first favorite
Hell,
movie
hell yeah.
when I was a kid. So yeah, I always wanted just like a really souped up, like clapped Honda or something like of that nature. Um so I was really hyped to get it. I knew that it was gonna be work that needed to be done because I got it for super fucking cheap. And like but driving wise, like the engine, like every all that type of shit, all that was fine. It's just more so like the exterior is like a little bit banged up. It's looking a little
Okay.
bit ugly, you know?
What's
But
on the inside that counts?
yeah, yeah. And so it was completely fine. Um, but as soon as I got it, I started to notice like, damn, like every single time I hit a pothole, like it's like so like I need to really be careful. And there was this one day where I drove to Manhattan for a little while with my friend, and anybody that has driven around New York knows like FDR Drive is a nightmare. There's potholes everywhere. There's bumps. There's just like you sometimes you can't even see the line. It was terrifying. And the entire time I was driving, it was just and I was just like, holy shit, like this can't be good. And like I'm turning to my friend. Like there was one point where we were literally both like suspended in air, and I was like, dude. He was like, nah, like I feel like it's fine, like whatever. Like, and I was like, do you think there's anything like detrimental that could like happen to the car because of that? And he was like, I don't know, maybe. And I was just like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
Boom. We went back home. It was fine. The next day, I I was driving my dad to the bus stop for work. I came back home. I live on like a hill. So I'm driving up the hill. I'm going to parallel park. As soon as I hit it in reverse, it just died. My wheel locked up. And I was like, what the fuck do I do? Oh my God. Like I didn't know what to do. Like it just, everything stopped. Like, so, I just like, as hard as I could, like
Yeah.
cut it to the right and got it in and was able to park it. And then, yeah, I was chasing ghosts for like a month straight, just like replacing all the sensors, replace the fuel pump, like all that shit. And then what it turned out being the issue, because I did a bunch of shit, bro. I spent a bunch of fucking money on that shit, and then it still wasn't working. And I was like,
Yeah.
at the point where I was like, dude, maybe I just need to like delete, not delete it, fucking sell it.
Yeah, I need to delete the car.
Just delete the car, just delete it from existence. I thought I was gonna have to sell it, and then, literally just sell it for far less than what I got for it, which was like the worst case scenario, just so I could like not have to deal with it anymore. And then I
Yeah.
let it sit for like a month because I got tired of working on it. Also, we are working on it in like 15-degree weather, which is horrible. It was just overall a very, very horrible experience. A couple times it rained while it was just
Yeah.
it was truly a nightmare. And then I let it sit and I was just trying to think because I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like this is my first experience ever working on cars. Like, but like that was part of the reason why I got it is because
Yeah.
I wanted to learn about these things, and it was always interesting to me, and I wanted to be somebody that's like able to fix something if something goes wrong, and it's just fun. Like it's kind of like a little bit of a puzzle. It's very very
Yeah.
fucking an annoying puzzle, but it can be fun. Like when you actually figure something out and it's done, it's a very nice feeling. So
Yeah.
I let it sit for a while, and I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, the reason why the car is not starting either has to be fuel, spark, or air. It cannot be spark because I replaced the spark plugs. It
Right.
could not be air. The intake is fine. I replaced the sensor on the intake. That's fine. It has to be fuel related. So I bought an entirely new fuel pump from AutoZone. It was like $270. And I'm like, I had a bunch of people be like, "Are you sure that you installed it correctly?" I opened it up, took it out, did it back in, reinstalled it, all
Yeah.
that shit. But I was having this issue where like on the fuel pump, there's like this little, it's called like a locking nut. It's basically like a little screw that like keeps it locked in. And that whole time that I was trying to put it in, it wasn't like threading. Like it was like almost as if like the cap, the locking nut wasn't fitting my car. So I even like, dude, I had a fucking flathead and a hammer and I just fucking like and I got it in and like it started for a second and then I drove it down my block and it died again. So I was just
Oh
like, fuck.
no.
So I came to the conclusion, I'm like, all right, maybe well the other thing is it wasn't when it would turn on or like when I would put it in a like accessory mode when all the lights would turn on and the gauges would turn on, it wasn't reading any fuel. And I like manually put in like 10 gallons of fuel. Like I went to the gas station like 5 times and filled up a tank
Yeah.
and poured it in because my dad was like, "Oh, maybe you ran out of gas." Like, and you know what I'm saying? So I did all that shit. There was 100% like at least 10 gallons of gas in there, and the needle wasn't moving. So I was like, okay, the fuel pump has to be faulty in some way. So I found somebody on Facebook Marketplace that their RSX was totaled, but they still had the fuel pump.
Yeah.
So I got that fuel pump from them for $50, dropped it in, started immediately, has been fine ever since.
All
I
right.
go I go back to AutoZone. Obviously, I'm infuriated because they I just thought that they gave me a faulty pump. But it turns out that we used my friend's AutoZone account because I didn't have one at the time. To just try to get like when you buy shit there, they'll give you discounts or whatever. Because I was spending a lot of money, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they pulled up the thing on the computer and they're like, "Oh, like it looks like we gave you," because he has a WRX. So he was like, the guy's like,
Oh no.
it looks like it says here on the computer that we gave you the fuel pump for a WRX. I was like, bro, are you fucking kidding me? You literally gave me the wrong brand, the wrong car brand fuel pump to put in my car. Like, and that wasn't the first time. Like, dude, I bought like brake pads from them and they gave me the wrong size brake pads. I have beef with AutoZone. Like,
Oh
like
my
I have
god.
serious, like it's not, between me and them, it's not good. Like, yeah. So
On bad
luckily,
terms.
luckily it's fine, but that was a very very infuriating process. But that's also what comes with it. But
I mean, yeah, I guess that's what comes with any sort of like fixer up or something that really resonated with me is I don't think you've really truly experienced car trouble until you've just had to like forego power steering and just manually turn that wheel.
yeah, so many times, like, because when we would like get it to turn on for a second and then like drive it down the block and then it would die and then like I have to have like four of my friends like push it while I'm like
Yeah,
trying to like straighten it out. Like,
I had a
yeah.
2008 Kia Sportage that the power steering would go out whenever I hit a puddle. The water would go up under
Oh
the
my god.
and then it would go out every time I hit a puddle. Dude, yeah, I gotta ask, how many miles are on that bad boy?
166,000.
Hell yeah. So you're about halfway done. You got another 160 in you.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's especially if I like, because I plan on like just basically giving it like a refresh. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Just like replacing. I need to get a fucking oil change like immediately. But yeah, just replace all the essential parts. Because I mean they're all like relatively cheap for what it is, and just
Yeah.
general maintenance. Because most of the reasons why those cars end up dying is just because people don't maintain them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping if I just maintain it and it'll last me quite a little bit. You know.
Well, all right. I'm glad to hear that you're kind of getting on the other side of the car things. Although I'm hoping that nothing else kind of rears its head in the future, but I guess that's to be determined. I do kind of want to revisit our last conversation. We last talked in October of 2023, and we did briefly discuss your album Scrapyard, which had also come out that year. A little
Mhm.
over a year later, I believe it came out in March, so maybe actually almost 2 years later from Scrapyard. How has that album aged in your eyes, and how do you feel that you've grown since that sort of major milestone in your career?
It's really funny that you say that because like I kind of forgot about it
Oh, word.
for a while. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
just
it was out.
in
You
the middle.
finished it.
Yeah, and I had like I was just I kind of when I came back to New Jersey, um I was just like I've been just hanging out with like my friends like since friends people I've been friends with since like high school and like just kind of catching them up on shit. And like one of my friends like he got super into like electronic music recently and like we were kind of like nerding out about that and I was just like showing him some stuff. And then I remembered it and I was like, "Yo, have I ever showed you this like it's like this album I made, it's like there's no vocals, it's all like electronic shit." And he was like, "Nah." So we sat in his room, we got like super faded, and I played the whole thing for him, and he was like, "Dude, what the fuck is that?" Like he was like, "You just like had that?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro." And I was just like, I like to be real with you, like, I love it. It's like one of my favorite projects that I've ever made. But I had an understanding that like it wasn't gonna be something that like did particularly well
Yeah.
numbers wise. You know what I mean? Like I knew that going into it. That obviously didn't stop me from like, putting it out and I'm still really proud of it. But yeah, I do kind of wish that more people were hip to it because I still think it's like I don't even know what the fuck was going on when I made that shit. Like I don't even remember like how I did certain sounds. Like I'm like listening to it like how the fuck did I. But it was just, it was literally just a whole uh giant experiment basically
Yeah.
of just like taking like I sometimes I'll have like sound design sessions where like I'll either use some of my hardware or I'll literally just take sounds that already exist. I'll sample something from a song and then just like put like 10 different effects on it, resample it over and over again until it becomes unrecognizable, chop it up. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like trying to figure out like listening to it and trying to figure out like, damn, how the fuck did I even do that? It's like it's yeah, I'm just really proud of it. And yeah, I feel like I learned so much from making that project and like the music that I've been working on recently. It's kind of like been reminding me of that. Like not necessarily in terms of like how it sounds, but like the skills that I learned from making that project. I feel like I I definitely feel it
Yeah.
now and it's really nice. It's very rewarding.
I like that I like that you bring up your electronic influence and your electronic endeavors because I know that you've pushed yourself pretty far as a producer to venture into like abrasive and experimental and just kind of like fun electronic and dance territory as well. Um And I know that in the past you have mentioned this idea of taking electronic works and humanizing them as much as possible, humanizing electronic elements of music. So what's that process like? How do you feel that you can bridge the gap between something sounding electronic and being very synthetic in a way, and then also being at the same time very human and representative of how you feel and where you're at as a person?
I think for me, it's kind of like the way I look at humanizing the electronic elements, I guess. And I don't know if it really it makes sense. It makes sense in my mind, but
Okay.
it's kind of like degrading those things, like taking a sound that's like really pure and kind of degrading it and breaking it down in some way. Which I feel like is like kind of representative of the human spirit in a
Yeah.
sense. Not to get all
No, I see where you're going. I get
you
it.
know what I mean? It's like just taking something pure and kind of just breaking it down. Like something I really like to do, I like to mess with is like the texture via like messing with the fidelity of the audio, like using lower bitrate audio. Like I have this plugin called, well, there's a couple different plugins now that you can use to do this, that kind of they'll introduce like MP3 artifacts
Okay.
into the sound. Um, and I was always obsessed with that, like just from literally like being on YouTube as a kid and like watching a fucking AMV that like was re-uploaded like 4 or 5 times and it
Yeah.
sounds all fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it's like kind of the equivalent of having like a damaged tape or like a CD that's like skipping or like a
Yeah.
vinyl that's crackling. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the route that I'll usually go, is kind of like taking something that's like super clean and just making it dirtier, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
dude, that's actually it's so crazy. That like you're like, oh, I hope it makes sense because it makes sense in my mind. That makes so much sense to me. You know what I mean? It's like how like in 2017 every lo-fi song had like record scratching and shit. It's like this idea, like you explaining it as of like a degraded MP3 low resolution like AMV. Like it all made sense to me. That's actually incredible.
Yeah, and I definitely, I'm not taking credit for coming up with that idea. Somebody that really inspired me to do that was SV1,
Okay.
actually. Like when I found his music, like I noticed those qualities in a lot of his music, and it kind of led me down the rabbit hole of like figuring out like how do I do that? Like because at first I was literally just like in FL Studio you can render it at like 96 kilobits per second if
Yeah.
you wanted to. But with the plugins you have a little bit more control of you could literally automate it. So sometimes I'll make it so that at a certain point of the song it'll like start completely clean and then I'll have it automate up so it like degrades
Okay.
over that bar. You know what I
That's
mean?
pretty
Like
sick
cool shit
actually.
like that. Yeah. Yeah, I
um
love that shit.
and we can kind of fast forward a little bit to the present after discussing scrapyard and electronic music, because you did just drop Every Light's Fate with Polar and 93 Sheet of Smoke. So sort of branching off of that, what I do want to know, and we did briefly discuss this last time, but maybe from a different perspective here, is how do you and your close circle of collaborators continue to push each other to evolve and grow in your art? You know, what do you think you can accomplish working with them that you might not be able to reach by yourself?
Um, I think for the most part, like at least right now for me, I just miss making music with everyone. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I went through a period where like I feel like everybody kind of had to figure their own shit out and everybody kind of went their own way and was experimenting and trying shit and you know um every just on their own journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like ever since, we went on that tour, the emo rave tour, it just kind of like brought back a lot of nostalgia, brought back a lot of like, damn dude, like, I miss being around everyone and I miss just like, it's like sometimes like music can become so stressful, and like I don't want to like ever sound like ungrateful, because I'm very grateful that anyone cares at
Yeah.
all, but it's like there's a lot of things that control especially because it is my job and it's how I make my living. It's like there's a lot of things that are completely out of your control,
Hmm.
um and they affect everyone. It's like imagine like at your job, like something very very fundamental that affects your day-to-day life and doing your job was changed without you knowing. It's
Okay.
basically what we're dealing with every day with like the algorithm changes and the fucking, different curators, that playlist. It's like we don't get a memo being like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? So I feel like lately it's really just been like trying to get back to the basics. You know what I mean? Just trying to get back to the basics because it's like I feel like we were all like trying to fight the algorithm, trying to fucking let's do this, let's try to fucking make these TikToks, let's do whatever. And
Yeah.
like, I'm still trying, you know what I mean? Like I'm still trying to find ways like in the current state of the industry to continue to push myself and to continue to promote myself. But I think like something that's really really important to me again is just kind of getting back to the basics and just like making music with my friends,
Yeah.
and it's been a little bit more difficult because we're all spread out now. It's like 93 is in Portland, Pullman is in Wisconsin, the rest of the guys are in LA. So yeah, we just did the classic, just sending the stems back and forth,
Yeah.
which like I hadn't done in a while. So um yeah, I think for the most part it's just there's no better feeling than making music with my friends,
Yeah.
and I really miss that. So it's like I'm really happy that we were able to make that song, and the way that it came about was like really funny too because I made that beat like as a joke. I literally heard, I'm not even kidding, I heard the beat like in a dream. And I think the reason why I heard the beat in a dream was because my brother kept playing that the Fray Jerk remix
Okay.
like over and over again, like because he like, bro, my brother is like famous on TikTok. Like
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, he's like famous on TikTok, and he won't make a TikTok with my song. So we kind of have beef over that. You know what I mean? But yeah, he kept playing that shit over and over again. I guess he was like working on an edit with the song, and I just kept like hearing it over and over again. And like in my dream, I just like heard 3 Days Grace sample jerk beat, and I was like, I need to do this. So I made it, and then I just literally thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and I posted it on my story. And 93 texted me, and he was like, "Bro, this is the best beat I heard this year. Can I get on it?" And I was like, really, like, oh my god, like, but I was like, yeah, obviously, of course. And then like
Yeah.
Pullman, I was like, bro, you want to hop on it? I feel like it'd be crazy if we did the 3-man combo. And he was like, let's do it. So yeah, it's just really funny how that came about because it's like, I feel like it often is that way where like,
Yeah.
you know you kind of make something and it's like you kind of whatever about it, or you're just kind of fucking around, and then it's like people really fuck with it. I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah, there's like the spontaneity of it
Yeah.
produces some fun stuff. And also I would really love to ask you about the Gianni alias and project and making music under a different name because Shinigami has been a name that has represented your art and brand for almost a decade now. So even if only in some instances, not entirely, moving it away from it is a big shift. So how would you say that endeavors in a new project and a new name have been transformative for your work, and how does or could a new project better represent where you are at now as an artist?
To be honest with you, I kind of regret trying to do that, to be
Okay.
honest, because I just think like to be completely transparent with you, I was just going through a lot mentally at that
Mhm.
time, and I was kind of feeling like I'm like, dude, like I don't know if this shit is gonna work anymore. I kind of feel like I get this feeling that because because of the music that I kind of came up from, you know what I mean? And like the scene that I was involved in when I was younger, sometimes I feel like people will only ever see me as that.
Yeah.
Like they'll only ever see me as like, oh, Shinigami, like he's like an emo rapper. You know what I mean? And I think that I was really struggling with that. Like I was kind of having like a bit of an identity crisis. Um, and so like I feel like I did it like very quickly. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do it, and blah blah blah, like did all the shit, whatever. And then as soon as I dropped that one song, under it, and I just like, I'm not even gonna lie, I just looked at like the fresh Spotify and everything was 0, and I was just
Yeah.
like, how the fuck am I gonna like do, like, you know what I mean? And it kind of
Yeah.
was just like a reality check in a sense of like to be grateful for what I have. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Rather than like feel embarrassed by it, because that's kind of how I was feeling. I was feeling like I don't like, I'm like, dude, like I don't know. I was really a huge weeb when I was a teenager when I came up with this name,
Yeah.
and like I'm not anymore. And like I feel like when I meet someone new and they're like, "Oh, like you make music? Like, what's your name?" I feel like when it comes out of my mouth, I'm just like, "Ah." Like it's like a little embarrassing, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like, you know, like I built something with it, and it's something to be proud of rather than something to be,
Yeah.
embarrassed by. And like I don't even think it really matters that much at this point. That's kind of what I realized. I'm just like,
Okay.
dude, like I might not love the name, but it's just like with the way things are at this point in terms of the algorithms and the way the industry is functioning at this point, and I think that like trying to start something new and have that be my main thing would not be in my best interest.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Well,
not saying that it's not possible, but like I'm just like, you know what, like I would rather just continue doing what I'm doing, and then kind of, if at some point I make something that's like maybe this can go on something else, then I could put it on that account. Like I put some like this instrumental thing that I made on my like 404
mhm.
on there like a little while ago. Um so I'd probably just put stuff like that on there, but yeah, I definitely was just kind of like bugging out, and like I realized it very quickly that like I was bugging out, and I'm
Okay.
just like, I'm okay with being Shinigami.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, well, in that case, I guess I'll flip my own question on its head here and kind of tackle the inverse of it. Being did branching out and kind of coming to those realizations, being like starting from new is intimidating. It's a daunting task, and I don't know. Did those decisions maybe made in the moment or quickly, as you've said, did they help kind of reinforce like, oh, I'm actually like I'm okay with what I'm doing now, and I'm cool with where I'm headed, and I'm confident in myself as in this project.
yes, yeah, it was definitely kind of like a reality check. It was just like, do you, especially just like at the point that I was at, like mentally, I was like, I literally can't do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I can't deal with like the stress of like, okay, now I gotta like completely rebrand and like come up with and you know what I'm saying? Just come up with all this other shit and like push it super hard and like try to get on these playlists and do all this. Like, it was just too much. It was just way
Yeah.
too much. Where I'm like, I already have my work cut out for me,
Yeah.
and like I already have like a bit of an aesthetic, a brand developed already that I worked really hard to develop. So it's like I just felt like it would be foolish for me to just like throw that all away and
Yeah.
like start again when it's like in the back of my head I knew I'm just like I kind of just want to keep doing what I'm doing, but like it was really just the name. And like I considered just like changing the name on my current Spotify, but like that's a whole nother process,
Yeah.
and like that's gonna make things confusing, especially it's like some of the cover arts are still gonna say Shinigami on them. You know what I mean? It was just like definitely it was reassuring in a lot
Yeah.
of ways,
Yeah.
and I felt like I kind of had to do that to realize like, dude, like you're kind of tripping right now. Just chill out,
Just take a
and
step
like
back.
it'll be fine.
It's
Yeah, take a
okay.
step back. It'll be fine.
You bring up kind of uh the aesthetics and the music and the kind of community that you're involved in like at a young age, because your music is gaining traction when you're like 17, 18 years old. And so sort of tangentially on the topic of origins and longevity and identity in your music, do you feel that finding success at such a young age with a specific scene has affected how you measure now, whatever success means to you?
Absolutely. Hold on. I'm gonna pop a Zen in for this
Oh,
one.
by all means.
um, yeah, so this is something I think about a lot, honestly, especially lately, because I've been kind of like part of the reason why I was having that kind of crisis to begin with was like I it's really weird to find success at a young age, especially when it comes to like like making money. Like dude, like I don't come from a lot of money. Like you know, I didn't even like when I was in high school, I like had one job and I got fired because they said that I looked high all the time. And I wasn't, like I literally wasn't. I was just like depressed and like exhausted because I would like go to school, come home from school, go to work. And my it's funny because like it was like right down the street from my house. So I would like put all my shit on, boom, go there, and I would work until like 10 p.m. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
I was making nothing. Like, so and I was just I'm just like it's really hard for me to fake, like, you know what I mean? Like to
Yeah.
like perk up and just be like, yeah, like, so like they thought I was high all the time and I got fired. Um so I was making no money, and then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, shit starts to go up. I start making money. I didn't have any type of like financial advisor, and beyond the financial aspect of it, it's also like like public relations and like not knowing not to like post certain shit, and
Yeah.
like how to like talk to people and like how to like network with people, and even like I was talking about this like on live the other day. It's like like I fumbled merch for like the first few years of my career because nobody ever sat down and explained to me like how much everything actually cost. It was just like I had all these people being like, okay, now I'm your manager, and now you have this merch company and you could just make whatever you want. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, bet. I'm gonna do fucking 3 different designs, 2 hoodies, fucking pants, stickers, and posters, not knowing that like all that shit is expensive,
Yeah.
and not knowing that like okay, like when you make a shirt, you need a screen for every single color on that shirt, and that costs money. The ink costs money. The actual printing of it costs money.
Yeah.
Their labor costs money. So it's like, dude, I made $0 off of merch for like 4 years, and I had no idea why. I was just like, I guess this is just the way that it is. You know what I mean? And like, it's partly my responsibility too for not maybe asking more questions, but it was just like everything was kind of just thrown at me, and everybody's like, yeah, you could do whatever you want. Yo, we could do this. We could do this. Like, we could do pants. We could do whatever. So I'm just in my head, I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. I just want to make cool shit.
Yeah.
You know? Again, something that wasn't explained to me, and then it's also like the just not it's like I never really felt like that much different. You know what I mean? And like I at the end of the day, like I'm just some guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I have people sending me death threats and all this crazy shit, and or that's the more extreme end of the spectrum, or just like dealing with people like shitting on something new that I'm trying, which
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, it's like my mentality on it is a lot better now, where it's like I don't know, I'm not really bothered by it because it's like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to make music that like everybody's gonna like, but I think that also kind of just came from I was just an insecure kid, like what I mean, and it's like this is my shit, this is the thing I'm the most proud of, this is what I feel like is like the best of me. So when people would criticize it, it hurt me very deeply, and it would kind of send me down a spiral of being like, dude, maybe I fucking suck. Like I don't even know why. Like, and then I'm trying to make music, and I'm like, it's like almost like the people that were judging me are like in my own head while I'm trying to make music, and like being like, dude, you fucking suck. Like this is nobody's gonna like this, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I definitely think it was like uh really stressful. And I'm still kind of like coming to terms with it at this point, especially now where I'm like, I'm 25 and like now I have people being like, dude, you're fucking you're old as shit. Like just hang it up. This music shit is not for you anymore. Like I've gotten like a bunch of shit like that. Like just hella mean shit like that, dude. And I'm like,
It's
I know that it's
unnecessary.
stupid. Yeah, like it's stupid and like it doesn't really bother me that much, but it's just like I'm 25. Like some of my friends, you know what I'm saying? It's like some of my friends, like when at the time, like when like 2019, whatever, they were the age that I'm at right now, and nobody was saying that shit to them. But it's
Yeah.
because I've been around for so long. It's like I feel like I'm older than I am, and I feel like sometimes I'm like, dude, like, am I like not cool anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Do people like
Yeah.
not like fuck with me? Like, is it like, am I washed up? Like, and it's like I should not be feeling this way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I should not even be. Those things shouldn't even be crossing my mind because I'm
You're
25.
in the
Like, I'm
prime of
not.
your life.
Yeah, but it's like that's what like it's unfortunate, and I mean like I think that it's clear now more than ever with with like artists like Netspend and stuff like that, which like I fuck with the kid, but like that type of shit worries me because dude, he's so fucking young. He's like what, like 17, I
Around
think.
around around then. I know that he's pretty young. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, he's like 16 or 17, and it's like they prey on kids like that. Like
Yeah.
that's like that they put all, the industry is putting all of their resources and money and all that into these like young kids. You know what I mean? And like I can't even imagine like what that shit is doing to his brain. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like there's no like class or instructor that's there or like even like a mentor that's there for you.
You're kind of
You
just
know,
on
maybe
your
for
own.
yeah, you're literally on your own, just kind of thrown into this shit, like as literally a kid, and you're talking to all these adults that like don't have your best interest in mind, that are literally just trying to make money off of you.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just fucked up. And I feel like the industry is kind of geared to make you feel that way. It's like they want like the youngest kids possible to be able to take advantage of them. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, and I think I think that's kind of a big point of contention. I think for a lot of people as they get older, because I feel like you spend years kind of stuck in the middle of it, not sure what's going on. You're young, you think people are taking advantage of you, or there's nobody for you to talk to or rely on. And then one day when you're on the other side of that, kind of as you've described, you're like, oh, I'm 25, and I I kind of like I can recognize all that stuff that happened now, and I can recognize that I was kind of getting fucked over a little bit because nobody was there to help me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just
It's super weird too. Like there was a lot of shit too that I experienced when I was younger that was like definitely not like okay. Just like weird industry people
yeah.
like being super like touchy, weird shit, like super weird shit. And it's like at the time I'm like is me I don't I'm just again like I'm literally just happy to like be there. I'm happy to be like involved in and feel like I'm like doing something and feeling like I'm like making it, I guess. And like there were literally super fucking creepy individuals that like I didn't like I just was thinking about this shit like recently, like things like that would happen like pretty, I'm not gonna say super often, but like
I mean, enough to be a
enough.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like luckily, there's situations where it's much worse for people, but just like little weird shit of people just like literally like grown men, like 40-year-old men, like grabbing me and like pulling me close and being like, "Yo, like, like you're so fucking talented, like, you're gonna be a star," dude. Like super weird shit like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And yeah, it's like shit that I never really like thought about until I was like a little bit older of like that was really fucking strange, you
Yeah,
know?
and they'll and I've just noticed over the years I think it's gotten probably more of an issue because I mean let's think about it this way, you're 17, 18 years old, or you're popping off on SoundCloud, and like let's say like between 2015 and 2019, and like that's very much like an individual platform, you're running everything yourself, and then label people are coming in, older art, you get 17, 18-year-olds in fucking label meetings with like 45-year-old men with very little representation. I remember I talked to Young Van in an interview years ago, basically saying that every contract that he would get sent, like, oh, we want to sign you, you're awesome. Every contract was just calculated and designed to fuck over the artist as much as
Yep.
possible.
Yeah, I had I never signed, luckily, but I was in a basically like a legal battle over the rights of this song that I was on. And like I had a lawyer, they obviously had a lawyer. They would send the contract and we'd be like, no, like this can't happen. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
we would like we'd make amendments and then we would send it back and they would accept the amendments and then they would send it back and they would add something else. Like they would add another
Yeah.
like
Try to like
I
trick
don't
you
know.
almost.
Yeah, like they're like adding shit in between without even announcing it. And then my lawyer would catch it and be like, dude, what the fuck is this? This wasn't even on the last one. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. It's
super
predatory, man. It's crazy.
yeah, super fucked shit. And you know, I'm lucky that that is like the furthest extent to which I had to deal with something like that because I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have had it like way worse, but like yeah, just getting a taste of that of like and then also like they try to fatigue you by just like not responding. Like they would not respond to our emails for like 3 4 months and then they would send it back and then they would change something and then like we'd be like, dude, what the fuck is this? Redline it, boom, send it back,
Yeah.
and wait another 6 months, and it was just, yeah, it was a
It's an
disaster. So
exhausting process.
yeah, and they do that so that like you know you get literally exhausted of dealing with the situation, so that you just sign whatever the fuck they want to give you, and you get fucked over. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that's been on my mind recently, it's actually a post that Polearm made. Polearm essentially made a post describing himself as post emo, which was a term that I liked a lot. I think it works well both as a genre, but also a mindset for a lot of artists kind of operating in the same scene. And although maybe the community you operated in, I'm not sure the label emo really ever truly applied to you. But that being said, what would you say right now? And this is the last little bit of nostalgia that I've got locked and loaded for you. What are the strongest connections that you can make from your first early tracks to what you are making now? Like what's evolved and what's different? What can you say that you're doing now that you're like, you know what, this is kind of like something that I've kept with me the entire time.
I think for the most part, it's like the melodies that I'm drawn to, and like I realize where I think it stemmed from. Like when I was a kid, um, I was like a huge crybaby. Like I like it was like seriously. Like I know it's like it's funny because it's like what I ended the music I ended up making and shit. It's like it's funny. Like it's almost like it's like
It was
some
destined
shit
to
is
be, yeah.
some shit is just like written in stone. I guess you know what I mean. But like yeah, there was just certain songs and certain melodies that like I couldn't listen to like up until when I was like probably like 5 6 years old. Like I would just burst into tears. One of those songs was um uh Through the Wire by Kanye West. I
Nice.
don't know
Okay.
why, but like the pitched up vocals, like that shit used to make me cry all the time. Every time we play on the radio, every time my parents would play it. Um, and then also like my parents were I'm from Jersey. My parents were like they were in the clubs and shit. And
Yeah.
my parents' wedding song was the piano version of Heaven by DJ Sammy, and that
Yeah.
song used to make me cry all the time. And I feel like that it's I wish I had the like lexicon to really describe what those certain melodies are that I'm drawn to. But it's like, yeah, I feel like that's a really good example. I guess just like super, just very emotional, very like um melodies that have a really nice resolution to them. And yeah, like a lot of that like early like trance, like Euro dance kind of music. And also like from my Dominican side of the family, like there's this music, it's called bachata. It's like
Right?
it's literally like Spanish emo music. Like all of the it's all about heartbreak. It's super emotional. And that's another type of music that like I used to like cry to like when I was a kid when my parents would play it. So like I don't know what it is with just like sad melodies that like I've just always been drawn to, just or just like pretty melodies.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like now I'm at the point where it's like kind of I know that I'm always going to be drawn to that, and like there's even just certain notes and certain resolutions that like I'm always drawn to, like when I'm like doing scratch takes for a song that I'm going to record on. Like there's just certain
Yeah.
melodies, and I feel like everybody kind of has like those specific melodies and resolutions that they kind of go to naturally. And yeah, I think it's just kind of like the music that was played around me as a kid and like my uh intense emotional reaction to those things, I think kind of just seep into my subconscious. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, talk. I mean, talk about melodies and resolutions and stuff. Maybe taking the music that you listen to, and then the music that you make and all this fun stuff. I know that a lot of artists have certain lyrics, motifs, or even entire songs that they are particularly proud of that they feel have gone either underappreciated or undernoticed. So I do want to ask you, what is something that you have done, something you've made, whether it be part of a song, a whole album, that you wish more people would have recognized? You wish more people would. You were really proud of it, and you're like, man, I wish more people could have seen that the way that I saw it.
Ooh, that's a tough question because there's a lot, but I do what I will say is like I feel like lately more people have been picking out the things that like I put in specifically, where you know what I mean, it'll be like one line where I'm like, dude, this shit is hard as fuck, or it's like super meaningful to me. And people have been picking them out, especially like with the pure data shit. And I think I could give a couple songs. I think
Okay.
one song for me that kind of fits in that category is Cut My Wings.
Okay.
I think that like when I was making that, it was just kind of like, I was kind of going through the first the first kind of wave of feeling like, dude, like I don't know, maybe like it's over, like maybe like it's this shit is just not working out, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lyrics in that song kind of reflect that, and like I even said like in the song, it's like I actually literally have to look at the lyrics. I'm trying, or like I need to like think about it for a second because it's in like the middle of the song. uh
I got to start from the beginning every time. It's like the
uh,
ABCs.
oh, you listen to my words but you don't know what they mean. Yeah, so you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
And I have felt that way a lot, where like, like I try not to pay too much mind to it because I understand that like, you know, it's not. I try to like detach myself from my music as much as possible, which is hard. Like it has to be a balance because it's like the way I look at it is it's like while I'm making it, it's like I have to be as connected as possible, obviously, to make a good song.
Yeah.
But it's like once it's out and once it belongs to the world now. It's not mine anymore. Um, but I have people being like, oh, like I miss when you were like writing real shit. I miss when you were like really like just writing things that were like emotional. And it's like, dude, like do you actually listen to like what I'm saying like in the songs? Like you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
maybe the beats are a little bit different, maybe the instrumental is different, maybe my delivery is a little bit different. And I mean, my voice has literally changed. Like I can't sing the way that I sang on like Luna or something because
Yeah.
I was 17 and I'm 25 now. My voice got deeper. You know what I mean? Like um so that's one. And then one song that like I'm super drawn to, and I'm just like I don't even know like where I don't even know where that shit came from. You know what I mean? Is Crestfallen on Pure Data.
Yeah.
That's my favorite song on the album. It's just like I feel like every single lyric on that song is just like hitting somewhere that like I never hit before, I guess, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um like the I don't want the glamour, I just want the truth, but the truth don't pay. You know, it's like that's what it is. It's like kind of like the struggle of, you know, wanting to express yourself to the furthest extent that you possibly can and to also like explore every creative endeavor and every creative idea that you can, which is like that's my goal is like, you know, I'm not the one that's driving the boat. You know what I mean? Like it's literally
Yeah.
like it's my environment and like what's going on in my life, and it could even just be like I'm fucking scrolling on my phone, I'm on TikTok or something, and I hear a song and I'm like, "Oh shit. Like I got to do something like this." You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
I'm completely like open at all times to just making whatever it is I feel like making, you know, but it's like you at the same time understanding that like, you know, I want to be in a better position. You know, like most people are, you know, I feel like are, you know, just like, dude, I just, you know, I do it for the love of it and whatever. And of course I do it for the love of it, but it's like I also want to be in a better position. You know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
feel like there's uh, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to excel, but it's like I also don't want to uh I don't want to have to dumb myself down to be able to get to that point. So I feel like that song was kind of like uh a great example of, you know, me expressing that feeling. And it's like I feel like it's the closest I've gotten cuz it's like I've made, you know, cut my wings and that song and Crestfallen are like kind of related in
Yeah.
that way to me of like where, you know, where I was at while I was making them. But like the other part that kind of draws me to that song is like I had the first half of it done for months, and I couldn't come up with a second verse, and like, you know, usually when I do that, it's like a 50-50 chance if I'm gonna finish it. Usually I'm probably not gonna finish it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like I'm a very much like uh it's kind of like ritualistic in a way where like I feel like I have to whatever comes out right then and there, like that's the song. And like I usually don't, or like at that time, you know, I wasn't kind of into starting something and then going back to it because I feel like it's like my energy is different. Sometimes it's like my voice would sound a little different when I was trying to record and it wouldn't really match the cadence that I had before. But I had that sitting for a while and it was just like just because of those lyrics and just because of the like the delivery and everything, I kind of feel like it was just all kind of perfect in what I was trying to convey.
Yeah.
And I was just really, really attached to it. Um, I ended up coming back to it in September and I wrote that second verse. And at that point, you know, I kind of was going through a lot of like, you know, just like life changes, like a bunch of shit was going on. But and I was like, dude, I don't even it was the album was still unfinished, obviously, like, and I was just kind of freaking out. But at the same time, I kind of had this like feeling of hope. Like I just had this like for like a second, I was like listening to that song. It was getting me hyped up, and I was like, dude, I need to finish this right now. And I
Yeah.
feel like the second verse is a lot more like positive. It's kind of like taking everything that I said prior to that and then being like, you know, it ain't
Oh
over
yeah.
till
It's
I
like you have
say it's
a
over. Like
fresh perspective on it.
yeah, like, you know, it ain't over till I say it's over. Like, you know, that was also I also that was a reference to Cutspace's Instagram because I was
Yeah.
trying to do that shit for a while. But it also related to, you know, the shit that I was going through where it's like, you know, I'm the one that decides. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't
Yeah.
let like numbers and people's perceptions of me make me want to fucking quit and stop doing what I'm doing, you know? So it felt really, you know, powerful and encouraging to kind of finish that song with in a better state of mind, you
Yeah,
know.
and
Um
I'm glad that you bring up and discuss Crestfallen because we are entering pure data territory. That is our big topic of discussion. But before we get into it, I have a couple miscellaneous questions that the people are dying to know. So we're gonna do a bit of a lightning round. All right? Are you
all right.
ready for the lightning round?
Yes, sir.
All right. I need your top and bottom pieces of Sonic media.
Top and bottom.
Top and bottom. What's the best Sonic has to offer, and what's admittedly the worst it has to offer?
Um mm, hmm I would say, to be honest, this might be like super controversial
Uh
because
oh.
I'm going like strictly, I'm trying to like go strictly off of like how I feel right now playing the games and not think too much about nostalgia, because like my nostalgic answer would be Sonic Adventure 2. But
Right.
like, dude, honestly, like it kind of sucks. Like as a game, it kind of sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like I try to play it and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't want to do the fucking Tails missions. I don't want to do the Knuckles missions. Those are so fucking the Knuckles missions are like the most annoying thing ever. Like I always hated that. The Tails ones are like not that bad. And like I'm pretty sure Shadow literally only has like 2 or 3 levels. Oh, my cat just decided to make an appearance. What's up, boy? Um, yeah, he only has like 2 or 3 levels in that game. So
Yeah.
I would say, like, as of right now, I love Sonic and Shadow Generations. I think like that is the best that the series has to offer right now from a pure Sonic game standpoint, not like a spin-off or anything like that. I was extremely pleased. I've been waiting for Shadow to get his spotlight again, or to just even be able to play as him
Yeah.
for so long. And you were able to play as him in Sonic Forces. That game fucking sucked. That's the bottom.
That's
That's
the
the
bottom of
bottom.
Sonic Forces.
Yeah, that's the bottom. And you know, so I would say like in between that for me, it would be um Sonic Riders Zero Gravity would be below that, and then below that I would say I'm kind of going back on what I just said about Sonic Adventure 2, but I would have to say Shadow the Hedgehog.
Hell yeah. Next up on the
Cuz
lightning. Oh, you're okay. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
oh yeah, I was just going to say, just, you know, it is not a great game,
Okay.
but I think the ideas and the vibes kind of carry it enough for it to be, you know, not at the top but not at the bottom.
All right. And then off the top of your head, EDM or IDM?
Well, okay, so it's complicated. It's
Okay.
complicated because, like, to me, EDM is like festival electronic music in my
Okay.
head, which I'm not particularly a fan of. Like, I love a lot of like older like UK dance music, like garage and like dubstep, like the older dubstep. But I also really do enjoy some IDM. I do love IDM as well. I would say IDM over EDM for
Hell
sure.
yeah. Next up, we have you, Polearm, 93 Feet of Smoke, and Fatsy. No holds barred cage match. Who's coming out victorious? Who's winning the title
93.
belt? 93? Oh, that was a very quick answer.
Yeah,
Why 93?
because he's tall.
Okay, I
He's got
guess
wingspan.
that's all you need. And then finally, for the lightning round, I need you to rate these little shadow songs from least to most favorite. We've got Quickscope, Dirty Dan, and Recon. Best to worst little shadow.
Say them again.
Quickscope, Dirty Dan, and Recon.
I would say Dirty Dan, Recon, Quickscope.
Hell yeah. So we can go ahead and get going for round two,
Hell
kicking
yeah.
off the conversation for Pure Data, which is your most recent album and your 10th question mark project.
Yeah, well, because I was also counting um what's it called? Zero,
Mhm.
which like it's not under my albums, but I mean, in terms of like that was a project. Like I worked,
Yeah.
you know, the mindset that I had while making it, counting that, counting also the Emotion Engine album
Yeah.
as well. It's like similar thing. So it's like as an artist, 10 albums.
Yeah. And you
Probably like one or two more counting some like really, really old shit that I did when I was like 15, but I don't count those.
Yeah, okay, okay, those don't count. We're just talking, official full something that's full length and cohesive at least. It's like, "Oh, this was
Yeah.
intended to be a project." I guess just kinda starting off, it's been about a month since Pure Data released. How has the, reception to the project been? What have you been seeing in terms of reactions, and how are you feeling, a little bit on the tail end of its release?
Honestly, it's been really positive and I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. I was like really scared. I mean, I'm always scared, like when I'm about to drop a project, just because you know, a lot of time goes into it, a lot of like emotions are flooding through me, and it's also like, you know, there's also the fear of like, okay, like this is done, so like what is the next one going to be, and like I don't know what that is right now, you know, a lot of that, and also a lot of like, you know, just kind of worrying about how people would react to the sound of it, you know, because
Mhm.
I do know that like uh some of the production is like quite abrasive, you know, but that was part of the, you know, inspiration of the album, and why I, you know, chose to do it with Cutspace, because, you know, I'm a fan of his first, like, to be completely honest with you, like he's amazing. I really think like he's a genius. Like the way he uses like FL Studio is insane. Like I remember one of the first times we were hanging out and making music together, and I was like kind of just watching like what his process was like. Um he had like Edison on the master channel, and then he had like the sound with like a chain of effects, and like in FL Studio, if you like scroll wheel when you're hovered over like one of the effects, it'll like kind of rearrange it, and like while you're playing the audio it kind of causes these little like glitches and pops and stuff like that, and he was recording those like artifacts and those like pops that were coming from him like scrolling through the effects, and then like cutting them out and using them as drums. And I was like, I this is insane. Like I've never seen anybody do anything like this before, and like just being around, you know, someone like that that has such a unique way of making music, you know, it was super inspiring for me. But you know, I also had the understanding that like for some people it might be like a little bit too much.
Mhm.
And obviously, you know, it's not enough. It doesn't affect me enough to not have gone through with it, obviously, but I was kind of like expecting a little bit of like, oh, bro, what the fuck is this? Like, I want Luna. You know what I'm saying? Like, type of shit.
Give
Cause
us
I've,
Nobody, give us Luna.
yeah, give me Sanctuary Part 7. You know what I mean? But, um, it was like extremely positive. Like, honestly, like, I try not to, like, you know, get to, like, look at comments and, like, all that kind of stuff too much, because, you know, I feel like I'm particularly, like, sensitive
Yeah.
to a lot of things. And I kind of just learned that from doing this for so
Hey, it
long.
just means you
But
care. It just means you're passionate.
yeah, and like, you know, I'm better at handling like when people are like hating on me and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. I can't, you know, like I said in part 1, you know, it's like I can't, it's not something I can control. I know that the music that I'm making is not going to be for everybody. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of have to accept it at that point, but it was overwhelmingly positive, honestly.
Hell yeah.
And like there's a lot of like little details that I put into songs, like whether it be like kind of like callbacks to older songs or older lyrics, or um just little like Easter eggs and things like that. And like there's been a lot of times where I've done that and absolutely nobody noticed. And like, you
Mhm.
know, it is what it is, because it's like sometimes it's like I feel like the way that I make connections between things in my head is very specific to me. So I also don't, you know, if it's something super like low key and super niche that I'm pulling from like a song from like 5 years ago. I don't expect
Yeah.
everybody to be like, oh my god, that's the, you know what I mean? But people notice, like people notice a lot of the things that I was doing, and even just like, I noticed that there was a lot more appreciation not only for the production but also for the lyrics, which is the part that I'm the most proud of. Like, the songs that are um a little more serious. I tried to have a little bit of everything, you know what I mean? Like on the
Yeah.
project I tried to have like some songs that were just kind of fun, some like shit you could turn up to, and then songs that were like a little more serious. And I feel like people really appreciated, the my lyrics, and like pointed out very specific lyrics that like mean a lot to me, that stuck out to them. And it's honestly it's been great. Like I was so fucking stressed, like it's unbelievable. Like I was just, because I've been, I was working on it for 2 years,
Yeah.
so it's another part of that is like it's a snapshot basically of my life for the past 2 years, like down to the last song on the album, When These Days End. Like that was I made that song in September, and it was right when like I had moved back home and was just going through a lot of life changes. And it kind of made a lot of sense to have that be the last song.
Mhm.
So it's like, this is a snapshot of my life literally up until a few months ago. You know what I mean? And there's so many different, there was days, it's like I have songs on there that I made on days where I was just feeling really fucking confident and really up, and some days where I was really really fucking down and just dealing with a lot of bullshit. And it's just, it's my life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Not to be all dramatic and shit. So it's like to see so many people resonate with it. It means a lot to me, and it's very encouraging.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up Cutspace because Cutspace does take the executive producer chair on this project here. Production credits on 11 out of the 12 songs. I also know that you have tons and tons of albums that house only your production. So you're kind of relinquishing control here, handing the reins over to somebody else. And I know that you said that was like inspiring for you. You know, Cutspace's work is inspiring to you. You know, how did Cutspace kind of taking control of that facet of the project kind of affect your creative process with it? How did it changed how you approached these songs?
Um, I think it impacted it a lot, because to be honest with you, when we first started making music together, I was kind of going through a really long like dry spell, basically, where like I hadn't recorded in like 5 months or 6 months or something. I was just like not sure what to do. Like I was not feeling inspired. I was kind of just like tired of like getting on the same types of beats, and it all started to feel really samey. And I feel like in order to retain that creative energy, you kind of have to challenge yourself in a way. And like when i first um when I first met him, we started talking. um he actually, I want to give a huge shout out, because honestly none of this would have happened without Io Kara, rest in peace. He was the one that introduced me to Cutspace. He brought him to one of my shows. And Yokara was like the first person, I guess, like in that, ambient producer space that I became familiar with. And, quite literally, like this wouldn't have happened without him. So I just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out real quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I met him at that show. I followed him and stuff. And then like a couple days later, he posted like a pack, you know what I mean? Like a slideshow pack on Instagram. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, dude, this is so sick. Like, and I like hit him up immediately. I was like, bro, like I need a pack. Like, let's make some songs. Like, and he was like, bet. So he sent me the first pack. I think the first song I made was Damn It's Cold.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, it's like I'm listening to it and I'm like, at first I was like, I have no idea like what to do on this beat. You know what I mean? Like I had
Yeah.
never gotten on anything like that before. Like it's super loose. There's a lot of, odd rhythms. And it was like it was a really, really big like it was a really big challenge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it broke me out of the funk that I was in, I feel like, because I was like sitting there for like an hour just like mumbling shit and just like whatever. And then like I finally started to get it. I hit like a little pocket, and then I started getting into it, and I was like, okay, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it really, his influence on me was really just like helping me grow creatively, and kind of break through the funk that I was in. And
Yeah.
I give him all the credit for like where I'm at right now, where like I'm making a ton of fucking music. And I haven't had this much like output in a really long time. And I definitely think it's because of meeting him and making this project.
Yeah, and you talked about how the different songs on the project kind of adopted different sounds, and sort of represented different points of your life over the past 2 years. Songs like "All That Remains" and "Crestfallen" and "Saving Grace" are like these bleak, kind of icy IDM atmospheres, and songs like "Snow" and "Drain My Battery" are a bit more of like a booming, energetic, like trap sound. How is the flow of this project structured, and what are you hoping to accomplish with the track list ordering and kind of the cohesive flow of how things work? How do these songs interact as a whole project?
Um, so it's a really good question, because
Thank you.
it's something that I like struggled with at first. And like there was a period where like I was very unsure of the project, because like it did have a lot of like different kind of vibes. And like at first I was trying to do just like a straight up like rap tape,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? That was like the original idea. And then, because that's kind of like the beats that he was sending me were like harder, and then he sent me some shit that was like a little bit more melodic. I think like the first kind of melodic song that I made with him was All That Remains. And like once I started making songs like that, it kind of made things a little bit confusing, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna like make sense. And then I kind of realized that after sitting on it for a while, it's the production that kind of tied everything together and made it cohesive. But in terms of like ordering the track list, I kind of put like what I felt was like the most, I want to say, because I wanted to kind of ease people into it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like I didn't want to start with like I feel like the weirdest one is like targeted individual.
Hmm.
Oh, I stumbled my words. Targeted individual. Um, that one was super like super left field, super weird. Like there's actually a really funny story for that song. At the time I was like seeing a fucking psychiatrist, and I was like trying to like take medication, and they had me like switching medications like every week. And they had me on Seroquel.
Okay.
And like I had taken my Seroquel to go to sleep, and he sent me a pack that had that beat in it. And like I was just like in like a daze like listening to it,
Like
and
a
I was like
trance state.
I was like I was like I need to record on this right now. Like it's just like in my head I just like imagine this like scary song. And like I also at the time was really like obsessed with like gang stalking. Like I don't know if you're familiar with gang.
Okay. Okay.
Like I was watching mad videos on it, and I just found it so interesting, because it's like definitely like a collective like schizophrenic.
Like a psychosis almost.
Yeah, like it's like all these people really believe like they're being followed by the government. And like I don't know, it just like it was like that. Maybe I think that day I had watched a documentary about it. I took the Seroquel, I was falling asleep, he sent me the beat, and I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna make a song about
Just like the perfect
gang
blend.
stalking. Yeah. So yeah, like, I wouldn't start the album with a song like that. You know what I mean? So I did it in a way where like I put the songs that I felt like I guess were like the most accessible at the front, and then kind of the weirder tracks in the middle, and then like this sadder songs at the end for the
Yeah.
most part, or like the more like subdued songs in terms of the production.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty happy with how it came out, to be honest.
Yeah. And if we kind of take a step back a bit and go back to the beginning and the kind of origins of the project, or really, any project for that matter, what is the mindset going into a new album for you? Is it a conscious decision from the start, basically saying, "Hey, I want to make an album now. It's time," or is it like a slow build? You make a couple tracks that are related with the same people. What makes you say, "Okay, this is officially an album"?
I think it's rarely ever intentional. I think it's for the most part, like you said, it's like I make a couple songs that are kind of related in some way. Sit on that for a little while. A couple months later, make a couple more, and then after like 4 to 6 months, I might have 6 or 7 songs that like all could potentially go together. Sometimes it's like that. And then there's also been times like for like Evo and Bio Machina, those were intentional. Those were
Yeah.
like I have a concept, I have an idea, um, and then kind of making the songs with those concepts and ideas in mind.
Nice. And you talked obviously you talked previously about the outro track and how that was made in September and it kind of sort of wrapped up and represented sort of that period of time in your life and how you were feeling at the time. And so when you hear this final track and you experience the project as a whole, and you kind of exit that on departure from the project, when it's all said and done, what are you hoping that people take away from this album that is unique to this project, maybe apart from your other ones? What do you want that takeaway to be?
I think I think it's as honest as I've ever been, which is like, you know, kind of my main goal at this point.
Yeah.
Even with the things that are not so comfortable, like like for the like target individual song, and I'm trying to think of another one. That one in specific, yeah, where it's like I was very like iffy about it because I'm like it sounds super like crazy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in my opinion, and like it's almost uh like a little bit embarrassing, but I feel like it's kind of important to share those. Um, I feel like if you listen to my music and you've been a fan for a long time, like you obviously know the kind of things that I struggle with, and I do think like I kind of I'm back and forth with it where I think that sometimes it can be a little bit too much.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think it can have I don't want people to like wallow in their sadness like listening to my music, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think that shit's cool, and like I feel like a lot of people romanticize it in a way, and like I feel like even I have romanticized it like in the past, because it's like, you're young and it's like, oh man, like I'm depressed, and then it's like, now I'm an adult and I'm like, dude, I actually have like fucking problems, you know what I mean? And it's not just like, not every aspect of it is pretty or like romantic or nice to look at, it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like I feel like that's like for me that's what a lot of the, you know, production kind of conveys is like this kind of uncertainty, um and it's really intense, especially like a song in specific. I feel like um Drain My Battery, like, even if the lyrics on that song are not super personal, I was kind of more on like a rap vibe for
Yeah.
that song. But like the production to me on that song, it's like suffocating. It's like the way that the bass, the sub is like it's like I don't know. It's like I feel like the production also kind of mirrors the way that I'm feeling as well. So I think that that's yeah, it's like the closest I feel like I've gotten like lyrically and sonically to conveying how I actually feel, which like, it's not always like cute little lullabies with like, like some sad little melody over
Yeah.
it, It's like it could be a little, it could get a little ugly sometimes, and I feel like sometimes people are afraid to show that part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean the vulnerability that comes with music isn't always. I suppose, accessible or marketable in a way. And I think that's what keeps the music interesting and what it keeps it innovative is that, you're not necessarily holding back from showing maybe the more uncomfortable sides of what your art can be.
Yeah, for sure.
And that about wraps it up for the pure data conversation and for the Shinigami interview as a whole. I appreciate you coming on, man. This is your spotlight. What do you want the people to know on Departure? What do you have to say to the people before we wrap up this interview?
I just want to thank everybody who's stuck around through the years. And I've been working really hard on new stuff. I have a few shows lined up. Trying to do more of those. Trying to do some more merch. It's a good time to be on the GX team. I'm
Hell
just gonna
yeah.
leave it at that.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Of course.